Good morning, everybody. It's June the 22nd, 2018. Just wanted to share a short video in regards to this verse here in Luke, where Jesus is saying, "If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and even his own life also, he cannot be my disciple." In relation to that, I just wanted to share a personal life story in regards to that verse. I was married for 10 years. I think I talked a little bit about this on a previous video, but I was married 10 years to a man who I know knew the Lord, and he knew the Lord when I met him. He hadn't matured a lot because he hadn't known the Lord that long. But he was filled with the Spirit, and I saw the gifts of the Lord come through him, and they were powerful, and I saw him affect the lives of many people around him. Having said that, after 10 years of marriage, and we didn't do everything the way the Lord would have had us to do, and there's always a price to pay for sin. There's always a price to pay. You're going to reap what you sow. It doesn't mean the Lord cast you aside, because when you ask for forgiveness, you're restored. But you can still reap what you have sowed. Makes me think of David in the Bible and some of the things that he reaped, even though he asked for forgiveness. You know, his family still reaped. But anyway, to get back to this, my husband had he had some baggage from his life before he knew the Lord that he hadn't really truly given to the Lord and asked for forgiveness for, and this showed up later, and in our marriage, and the enemy, he's always ready to jump on things like that. He's quite aware of what you're not free from. He's quite aware of what you haven't even admitted to the Lord that you have a problem with. And so he works on those things and to try to bring you down and try to make you a slave and ultimately destroy your life. So during this time with my husband, he was in an adulterous relationship, and I was at that time lukewarm with the Lord. I had strayed away. Both of us had. But when this happened, it didn't take long for me to realize I better run to Jesus because there's nowhere else to go. I mean, it seemed like my life was falling apart, and that the enemy was gaining ground quickly on all sides. So, I ran to the Lord and threw myself at his feet, and I just wanted to hear what he had to say. I just knew he was the only person I could trust. There was no one else to trust. And I gained so much from that time period, so much in Jesus in that time period. I would not trade that for anything in the world. During that time, though, my husband also noticed that something was going on with me, that I was becoming spiritually stronger, and I was trying to hear what the Lord was saying in regards to him and everything. And he began to get disturbed by that, because ultimately what he wanted was for me, he would come back to the marriage, but not if I was going to be serving the Lord, because he was in such a state. He didn't want to be around any kind of light from Jesus, any kind of discernment from Jesus. He didn't want to be around any of that, but he still wanted our marriage back together. And so what happened was he would give me choices. He would call me on the phone, day after day where I was working, and he would ask me how I'm doing, and I would say, well, I miss my husband, but spiritually it's amazing what the Lord's doing. He didn't want to hear that. Actually, that made him angry. He got angrier because of the condition of his heart. And I didn't realize this until much later, a few years later though, that, there was an ultimatum being given to me that I could choose my husband in our marriage and forsake the Lord, or I could, like this verse says, despise anything that would take me away from the Lord or cause me not to want to serve the Lord the way the Lord wants, And of course, it wasn't that I told my husband, hey, I don't want you back or whatever. It's just that when he understood that I was a different person, I was a newer, I was closer to the Lord than ever before, that he'd ever known me. And I wasn't going to forsake that relationship for anything. And ultimately what happened was he after we were separated for I guess a year and a half or something, he got a divorce, which he never told me. He never let me know he got a divorce. And then 7 years later, he married someone else who is actually involved in Wicca, I believe, pagan Wicca, occult witchcraft, Satan worship. Or actually, there's only two kind of people in the world, really. Those who are with Jesus and those who are not with Jesus. I mean, ultimately, that is the bottom line. Anyway, and I think I've also mentioned this in a previous video, the Lord He will go out and search for that lost soul. It's fine with me. I'm okay with our marriage not being restored. But one thing I do stand on is that the Lord is going to He is going to bring back that brother, that one I was married to. He will bring him back into the fold, and He will complete what Jesus put in him in the first place. So, I want to encourage people that there may be times where you may not realize that you are you are being asked, and you are, being put on, you are being asked, are you willing to forsake all that you hold near and dear for the Lord? Even if your relatives don't want you around anymore, even if your brothers can't stand to be around you, or your sisters, or your mother, they just can't handle the fact that you love Jesus, And here's what I found in my life. The Lord will give you more brothers and sisters in this world that you can confide in and love, and will love you back in His kingdom than you ever had before. And that is the absolute truth. That is what I have. And I just want to encourage people about that today. That verse looks really harsh. It does. It looks harsh, but in actuality, it's no choice there. It's either, if somebody's giving you the ultimatum, it's either me or the Lord. Hey, you're going to go for the Lord. You are always going to go for the Lord. That's where to go. That's the only person you can trust. That's the only person that will never, ever let you down, no matter what. And having said that, may your day be full of the blessings of the Lord. May you hear His voice. May you be uplifted. And I just give Him all the praise. Thank you, brothers and sisters.